Hello everyone! This pea soup and vegetable soup is chock full of good stuff. This is a chunky and very satisfying soup. It can be eaten as a meal in its own right. I used to make this on the stovetop, and you can if you don't have an Instant Pot, but with the Instant Pot, the ingredients cook so much faster and there's no evaporation, so I end up with more soup than when I cook this on the stovetop. And it's not a watery soup, it's a thick, hearty, delicious soup. Let's start with the ingredients. I use a split pea soup mix, but you can use split peas without buying a mix. Either get green or yellow or both, and then add in a vegetable bouillon cube. This is a chicken flavored cube, or you can use vegetable soup powder or vegetable broth instead of water. This is the pea soup mix I use. It comes with about a cup of split peas, yellow and green, and a packet of seasoning. Using this split pea soup mix is a shortcut, and who doesn't like shortcuts? And for some reason, I have a bunch of these in the pantry. Soup recipes are very forgiving, and you can substitute many of the ingredients without any fear. Baking is a different story, but with soup recipes, substituting, or as I like to call it, experimenting, usually turns out just fine. You'll also need a package of barley. The soup calls for a 1/4 cup, so you don't need a lot, but it helps make the soup thicker and heartier. Next, you'll need 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, an onion, 3 stalks of celery, 1 medium zucchini, 5 medium carrots. I actually had only 1, and so I only used this 1 big one. 2 parsnips, these were small, so I used 3. 1 turnip, again, this was a small turnip, so I used 2. Notice how I swap out the vegetable quantities in and out, but that's fine because this is a soup. Remember, this is not baking. And then salt, pepper, garlic powder, and some fresh dill. All right, time to dice up all the vegetables. 1 cup of onion. I know that was more than 3 stalks of celery, but I wanted to use what I had. The recipe calls for 5 medium carrots. I had 1 large one. Oh well. Remember, this is a soup. A little more of one vegetable and less of another is not going to matter. That was 1 medium zucchini. The 2 turnips I cut into chunkier pieces. Some people think it's a potato in the soup and they're surprised when I say it's a turnip. That was 3 parsnip, small parsnip, and that of course was the dill, a nice big bunch of fresh dill. Here you can see I have a nice big bowl of diced up veggies ready to go into the soup. To start, we need to sauté the onions and celery, so press the sauté button, make sure it's on more, that's high, and then wait for it, and then the pot will say on. Here you can see the sauté button. That's what I pressed. Once the pot is hot, I pour in around 2 tablespoons of EVOO, that's extra virgin olive oil, and then I pour in the cup of onions and stir it around. In other words, sauté them until they're nice and soft. Then in goes the celery. Stir that, sauté that for a bit. Next I add in 4 cups of water. And then it's time to dump in the rest of the veggies. At this point, I turned off the Instant Pot by pressing cancel. That's the beep you just heard. And now I'm adding 4 more cups of water. So that's a total of 8 cups. When I make the same recipe on the stovetop, I put in 12 cups of water. A lot of that evaporates as the soup is cooking. But when you use a pressure cooker like the Instant Pot, there's no evaporation, so less water is going to end up in the same amount of soup. Anyway, this is the max line, so I'm getting close to that, and you never want to overfill your pot. All right, next is a 1/4 cup of barley, and then a cup of split peas. Next, I'm going to put in the spice packet from the split pea soup mix, but you could put in the bouillon cube, either vegetable or chicken flavor, or you can substitute the water for vegetable broth instead. I'm using the spice packet. Stir that around. Next is 2 teaspoons of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and then the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of garlic, but I put in 2 because we love garlic. All right, mix up all the ingredients one last time, and then it's time to put the lid on. I'll leave the recipe with the exact measurements in the description box below this video, but really, soup is very forgiving with the amount of veggies or even the type you put in. So if you use 1 carrot instead of 3, or more celery, or more parsnip, or whatever, the soup should turn out just fine. Also, with the seasonings, less is always better because you can always add seasonings after you taste the soup, but you can't take them out. I think that's true in math as well as in cooking. Adding is easier than subtracting. Okay, now let's put the lid on. The easiest way I find is to match up the back of the pot with the back of the lid. I find that easier than matching up the front where the arrows are. I should have pressed the cancel first. I thought I did. Better late than never. So press cancel so that the display says off. And now press pressure cook or the manual button depending on your model. Then set the time to 17 minutes. And then let the Instant Pot do its thing. Once it's done, let it naturally release pressure for 10 minutes, then finish it with a quick release. You can see the silver button is still up, so you need to keep releasing the pressure until the pin or button drops down. And there it goes. Did you hear that? Now that the button is down, that means the pressure has released and you can take the lid off without worrying about your soup ending up on the ceiling. Anyone remember those days? And now the moment of truth. Delicious split pea and vegetable soup. If you store this in the refrigerator, it will thicken up. Serve this with some fresh dill on top and maybe some freshly made yogurt, or not. This is a really delicious soup you have to try. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Bon appetit, and thanks for watching. Bye.